Are you ready for a change? Are you ready for your life to turn around? Are you ready for things to happen to bring you great success, to see your dreams and visions come to pass? Then you are at the right place at the right time, listening to the Julie Tussey Show podcast. Welcome. And while you're here, please subscribe and leave us a good review. Also, let your friends and family know about the Julie Tussey Show. Hey, everybody. I'm so glad you're here today. This is Julie Tussey of the Julie Tussey Show. So glad to be with you. It is a wild and woolly September day in central Kentucky. So today I want to talk to you about a really great subject called You Want to Write a Book? Here's how. Here's how. I'm going to give you some pointers because, as you may or may not know, I just finished my first book that isn't a children's book. Yeah, I have written 3 children's books already, but I never published them. Used to be in the day, you just couldn't do that. One of them I wrote quite a while ago, and 2 I recently wrote, so I'll get those on my radar probably pretty soon. But yeah, this book is a result of the podcast. On the podcast, we talk a lot about weight loss. Since I started the podcast almost 6 years ago, I went through severe perimenopause and menopause, and I was stuck for 4 years, almost 4 years, not losing a pound no matter what I did. All the old things did not work. Anybody ever been there? So I wrote a book called You, Darling, Are Worth the Fight, Lose Weight and Thrive Like a Boss Through Perimenopause and Menopause. And it's really, really cool. It's really cool. I'm so happy. You know, when you don't try things, you don't know if you can do them well. You don't know if you can do them at all. So I want to encourage you that if there's something that you've wanted to do for a long time, you need to try it because this is amazing. The book is gonna release the paperback and the ebook on October the 5th, 2021. But the ebook is available right now. Go to Amazon and search Julie Tussey, and you can get the ebook for $5.99. $5.99. Now, it's not going to be $5.99 for very long. So it's over about 230 pages, and it just turned out great. Really great information on what perimenopause is. And you will be surprised. I don't care your age. Every woman needs to read this book because we don't, I've talked about it on the last podcast when we're about to start our period. All of the, get close to that age, 9, 10, 11, and there, we get the talk, right? Well, nobody gives us the talk about perimenopause, and I think that if you don't know about it, you might be surprised by some of the things that might be happening to you if you're 30 and up. That could be perimenopause. And then the whole process. And, I had a tough time through mine. Not everybody does. We talk about that in the book, but I had a really tough time. I share all my secrets of how I lost 30 pounds through that. I share all of the foods that are good for you and how I did it. There's actually some secret sauce in there. Secret recipe to success in there. And then I also talk about and educate in a really funny way about perimenopause, because if you don't laugh about it, you're going to cry about it. So definitely head on over to Amazon and search Julie Tussey and get yourself a copy for $5.99 on the pre-order. And then it'll release on October the 5th along with the paperback book. And then Audible comes. So I've gotten a lot of people asking me, Julie, what do you do? How did you do it? How did you write your book? I never really thought I could do it, you guys. Just to be honest, I always wanted to write a book since I was young. But I did not know. I just didn't know that I could do it. And then I had 2 sets of twins 12 years apart, and I was kind of busy writing songs and traveling and doing all that. Finally, I settled down and did it. So if you want to write a book, let's get started with this. I think it might end up in 2 parts, so we'll see. Let's look at about 7 different steps that you need to take to write a book. Number 1, the number 1 is to create a plan. The first step to writing a book is to create a plan on how you're going to do it. So that, to me, for me, I had to, number one, decide what I was going to write about. Number two, I had to think about what I was going to write about. A lot of what I wrote about, we've talked in the podcast about, so that was nice. I could go back and reference, but you have to know, okay, who's your audience and what are you trying to say to them? Who's the woman or man or men and women that you're trying to get to buy your book, and what are you trying to say to them? Then you have to go a step further and you have to plan how you're going to write this book. You can't just not take the time, because it is very time consuming. So for me, I started it and I wrote, oh gosh, I actually did this, and I would suggest you do it too. I knew what I wanted the book to be about, and I sat down and I wrote out probably 15 chapters of topics that I wanted within the book. Let me see. What were some of my chapters? They ended up getting tweaked and a lot longer. Isn't it funny? I've written this, but I don't have any way to look at it. Like, I don't have a book yet. But I laid out a bunch of chapters, and some of them were from the podcast. They were topics that I had done, and I taught on 3 things that I have done to lose weight and keep it off. So I knew those were going to be headings, and so some really, really cool stuff comes up. I'm going to bring, for the next podcast that I do, I'm going to bring down my manuscript and read some of it. But one that comes to mind is pull up your big girl britches, darling, and get ready, something like that, because and that's at the end of the book after I tell everything, you know what I mean? It's time to pull up your big girl britches and fight for yourself. So the book's called You Darling Are Worth the Fight, right? So that's just an idea. So kind of do an outline. You can go online, you can Google, and you can search and find outline formats for book writing. There's so much information available. Just kind of skim. I wouldn't say get too deep because you can get confused. Everybody's got a different opinion, but just do an outline, name it, lay out some topics that you want to do to write a chapter about, and then go for it. Make your plan. Also plan how you're going to write it. Now, one of the ways that I wrote was I started it, did the outline, did a few chapters, and then my husband had a heart attack. And so I took off, 9 months, 6 to 9 months after that, and didn't write at all, maybe longer. And I was just slugging along slow, waiting for inspiration. And I realized, you know what? I got to get this book finished. And the only way I'm going to get it finished is to focus, right? So I began to focus. I began to sit on the couch while my husband watched TV, and I wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote. And he would turn the TV down, and I wrote. And I literally sat on the couch to finish the book for about 2 weeks. I would get up and have lunch and stuff like that, but I just sat there and wrote and wrote and wrote. So something I had heard, Shemaine Nugent, she has gone into a room, either a hotel room or a room in her home, and just locked herself in for 3 days and came out with a book. So there's all different kinds of ways you can plan on your day off. Every day off, you're going to write for 3 to 5 hours or 8 hours or whatever it is you're going to do, but make a plan. Then the next great thing to do is to plan your cover. Go get some professional pictures done if you don't have them, and kind of think through what you want on the cover. Think about, do you want your picture on the cover? Is it a fiction? Is it a nonfiction? Just based on, nonfiction, you can put your own picture on the cover. I did that because my brand has been my name, The Julie Tussey Show, The Julie Tussey Band, Julie Tussey, Julie Tussey. I'm get tired of hearing my own name, but that's the brand that I built. And so I put my face on the cover of the book because I want people to associate me and my name with my brand. And so you can do any really cool things like that. So you can plan if it's about, warfare or whatever. Just start thinking about what you want, and then find yourself a very good graphic designer, someone to lay your book out. They'll know what format to save it in, all of these things. Now, in the beginning, I would recommend, number 3, that you would think about whether you want to self-publish by putting it on Amazon and having an ebook, paper book, Audible, all 3, or just one, and decide that. Or if you want to pitch it to publishers, it's going to cost a lot more money to pitch it to publishers, but it's a very valid thing to do. So I chose to self-publish because I've been doing, I do my own graphic design, have been for years and years and years. I worked with some artists when I was young and learned a whole lot about it. So I do my own graphic design, but I actually decided to self-publish. I thought, you know what, I just don't want to invest so much money. It's going to be enough just doing what I'm going to do. And so I educated myself on KDP, which is Kindle Publishing Direct. Kindle Publishing Direct. So you can research that. It's a great way to launch your book and get it going out there. All right. So then the next thing so when you plan your cover though, get copies printed at your local, I was going to say Kinko's. I don't think they exist anymore. Your local Office Depot. And put them in your house. Put them where you'll see them and it'll inspire you to go and work on your book. That's what I would do. All right. Number 4, you're going to want to write. Take the time to write. And once you have a plan, start writing. The first book will be published after a lot of learning curve. If you're like me, it took a lot of learning curve. Now, there's a couple different ways to write. You can write what you want, and then you can send it to a ghostwriter. I work with Fiverr, Fiverr. It's an app on my phone. It's where you can hire people from all over the world to do ghostwriting, to do editing, to do probably your graphic design. I prefer to work with a person in person that I can meet up with for that, but you definitely could. Nowadays, you can send files back and forth all day long and get tweaks. And so just, look for reviews and all of that when you go. But you can also have a person to read your Audible. I just landed a fantastic voice to do my Audible. I've thought about doing it myself, but I just don't have a lot of time right now. And so I thought, you know what? I love this girl's voice, and I actually interviewed 3 different women and made my choice, and it's in my budget. And if I couldn't have found it in my budget, I'd have done it myself. But no matter what you do, if you're going to do an Audible, you're going to pay some money. It's going to cost a little bit more to do the Audible than the rest of the book. But write your book. And then decide if you want to, if you feel like you did a good enough job on it, or you can send the information, you can send your manuscript to someone else and they will write your book for you. So if you're a preacher and you're a teacher and you're doing that kind of thing, that's a really easy way. Send a sermon over, or a couple or 5 or whatever, and have someone write your book. If you're writing your biography, you can just sit down and write everything out, and then if you want to change it into an autobiography and send it to a ghostwriter, I believe I've got that correct, how I'm saying all of that. But that's something you've got to decide. Do you want to write it 100%, or do you want to send it to a ghostwriter? And ask a potential ghostwriter for work samples, and be sure you own the rights to your published work. Yep, you got to make sure that no matter who you work with, that you own 100% of your work when you're done. We'll be right back after these important messages. Only on the Julie Tussey Show are you going to hear that you are not created to be ordinary but extraordinary. You are not created to be common but uncommon. You are not created to be average but above average. You are not created to be tolerable or passable. No, but you are created to be remarkable, noteworthy, impressive, striking, outstanding, brilliant, excellent, superb, praiseworthy. We could go on and on about how awesome you are. Are you struggling to lose weight? Are you over 30? Are you having night sweats, hot flashes, brain fatigue, brain fog? Do you just not feel like yourself? Or maybe you a little ornery? I have been there, and have I got the book for you. I'm going to be releasing my newest book, and today you can pre-order it if you email me. This is called You Darling Are Worth the Fight. Lose weight and thrive like a boss through perimenopause and menopause. It is a must-read for every woman. Not only is it funny and insightful, I have studied this subject for 30 years, and I have a lot of great information and great products for you to take your life back, and I share exactly what I did to lose 30 pounds in the throes of perimenopause and going into menopause. If I can do it, you can do it. All you have to do is reach out to me at thejulietusseyshow@gmail.com and pre-order. It's going to be coming off the presses the end of October, early November. So you, darling, are worth the fight. Lose weight and thrive like a boss through perimenopause and menopause. It's only $8.99. Reach out to me at thejulietusseyshow@gmail.com and make sure you order for your friends too, because this is one life-changing and powerful book. I want to take a minute to say thank you so much to our supporters, underwriters, sponsors, those of you that give to our nonprofit corporation, The Voice Incorporated. If you'd like to partner or give a one-time offering today, please go to tusseyonline.com and look for the donate button. You can also give at the Cash App. That's the cash symbol sign with TheVoiceinc, and on Venmo, TheVoiceinc. For those of you asking to get my fabulous skincare, which is like a facelift in a bottle, you can go to julietussey.neora.com.
And now, back to the Julie Tussey Show.
And we're back. Thank you so much for listening to the Julie Tussey Show. I'm so glad to be here with you. Now, we're talking about writing a book. You want to write a book? Here's how. We've talked about creating a plan, including getting a frame or an outline for what you want the book to say, what you want it to do. You have to know who it is you're trying to reach and what it is you're trying to say when you plan your book. Then you want to maybe lay out some of the chapters, and you'll add more as you go. You'll read it and reread it and add some chapters. You also want to plan how you will make time to write the book. Then number 2, plan the cover design. Go ahead if you know your topic and you kind of know your characters or your topic. If you're in a nonfiction, then go ahead and have a cover design by a graphic designer. Hire somebody locally or someone on Fiverr, Fiverr. It's an app on your phone, and there's people around the world that work on this. Research them thoroughly before you hire somebody. Then number 3 was to decide if you're going to self-publish or traditionally publish. Some people would put this later in the book, but I'm saying think it through, because it does really make a difference in how you lay out your book, in my opinion. Not the amount of chapters, that kind of thing, but just kind of know where you're going. Are you going to be pitching this to somebody else, or are you going to self-publish? I had decided before I even started my book to self-publish and had educated myself. Maybe you're in that same place, but you need to decide what you're going to do with it. Number 4 was decide whether you're going to hire a ghostwriter or not. To me, I think you need to make this decision early, because you might write differently. If you're just generally giving the story, you can give it out and it doesn't have to be in order, and a ghostwriter can fix it. Now, I did not do that. I wrote my own book, and I'm glad I did. It was such a learning experience. I'm so glad. Now that I've written this hard topic of weight loss and perimenopause and menopause, when I start writing my books like Called, Appointed, Anointed, The Powerhouse, You Were Created to Be a Powerhouse, these, I think they're going to be easier. I'm praying so anyway, because it was pretty hard. And then number 5, let's talk about the next step you're going to take is write. Just write. Just start writing and writing and writing. When you know that time you have, sit down and write. Number 6, read it over and over to make sure you included everything. I know there was things I wanted. I told you I made a list in the beginning when I made that outline of chapters that I thought. Most of them were included, but some weren't. And then new ones were written. So it's kind of cool. It takes on a life of its own. It evolves. Evolutionary writing. Number 7, hire an editor. Do not edit and proofread it yourself. Now, you can get your computer to do an awful lot of it. Make sure that you are doing it in Word doc, something like that, because it's easier for everyone to turn it into what it needs to be, depending if you're going the Audible route and the ebook and the paperback, just depending. So hire an editor. And when I hired an editor, I did make the mistake of hiring someone that was far younger than me and far different views on life than I had. And I still took what she said and listened to her and made some adjustments. I wouldn't make a lot because of the age difference. And I did not realize that when I hired her. I hired her on the recommendation of a friend. And I did not ask, how old is she? And I think she was in her 20s. But she did a fabulous job. She had really good feedback. She did have a different perspective. So I was able to take part of what she said and make it work. And then, of course, she did a great job on the proofing. Now, I like to add another step in there after I hire an editor. I like to hire someone just to proofread it after I've made all the changes. Like this editor, I sent it back a time or two and that was it. But then I added another chapter later and I did some things. It just kept evolving and things kept coming up that I wanted to add. So I did do a Word document proofreading, and I also did hire a proofreader to make sure that I didn't have any bad grammatical errors or punctuation. You know what I mean? Like, I just was working on the book today. It's ready to be published in just a few days. And I found 2 places where there was a period missing. That's a big no-no. And especially if you're going to do an ebook, just make sure that you are educated. And if you do self-publishing, I may do a podcast on that alone because there's so much you have to learn. But just make sure, if you could, to set your font at Times New Roman and set your spacing at 1.5 to 2 lines. And also, I did 14. I did a font size of 14. 12 is acceptable, but I was doing a 6x9 book. I think on my next ones I'm going to go like a 5x8, a little bit smaller. So all of those things count, and in Word you can actually go in and have settings preset, like you go in and set the size you want the book to be. That's pretty cool. So those are just some side notes. Number 8 is you're going to publish it. You're either going to go put it on Amazon or you're going to pitch it to publishing. And number 9, the biggest thing is do not go push publish on Amazon without that release date that you have made a big deal out of. There's many different reasons. Number 1, the excitement. Number 2, it's a great way to go ahead and get people involved in what you're doing, excited, and you're trying to get as many people to order it, especially on Amazon, on the very first beginning days of your book, so that you get moved up in the algorithm more and your book gets more exposure, equaling more people that you've reached with what you're doing. So there you go. Well, I hope this was a topic that you all enjoyed. I get a lot of questions about it, so I decided to do a podcast on it, because then I can send it when someone asks. I'll be like, go listen to episode 260 of the Julie Tussey Show podcast. Because it's a lot, but man, is it fulfilling. So be looking on October the 5th on Amazon for the new book coming out. Please do make sure you go check it out and go get the pre-order right now on the Kindle book. I think you're gonna like it, you all. I think you're gonna like it. You, darling, are worth the fight. Lose weight and thrive like a boss through perimenopause and menopause. And oh, to God that I would have had this book given to me when I turned 30. I love you guys so much. I want to remind you that Jesus is Lord. He loves you. I'm praying that he meets every need that you have. And if you have prayer requests, did you know we have a dedicated prayer line? That number is 859-519-0239. Again, that's 859-519-0239. We have the Limitless Church, which is on Facebook on my page every Sunday morning, 9 to 10 Eastern Standard Time, Daylight Standard Time right now until November. And you can come and join us live and comment. Now, we also talked about this on a podcast, I think the previous podcast. We did sign with Now Television Network, and we are going to be on the Now Television Network app on your phone. Then once you have it on, you go to the on-demand channel. So our first show will be releasing September 26, 2021. Woo, woo! So we've done TV on and off for years. We did 200 episodes of another program. This one is called Limitless with Gary and Julie Tussey. The church is called City Harvest Limitless Church, and it's a virtual church on Facebook. And so a lot of exciting things going on there. Check it out. I love you guys very much. Jesus loves you. And I want you to remember one thing. You only get one amazing, fabulous, and wonderful life. You guys, live it. Live it to the fullest. Till we talk again. Please go visit TusseyOnline.com. You'll find all of our products there. You'll find all of our music there. You'll find many of our videos there. And you will find the give and donate portion of this podcast right there. That's TusseyOnline.com. TUSSEY online.com. And don't forget to go over to YouTube and search Tussey Television to see all of the wonderful television programming that we are creating for you right now to enhance and make your life better.
I'm here to empower you to fix what's broken in your life.
Honey, you were not created to be ordinary, but you were created to be extraordinary. You were not created to be common, but you were created to be uncommon. You were not created to be average, but to be above average. You are remarkable. You are noteworthy. You are impressive, striking, outstanding, brilliant, excellent, superb, praiseworthy. Now, isn't that amazing? How many people tell you that? Only on the Julie Tussey Show. The Grace Girls and Company podcast and the Julie Tussey Show podcast are outreaches of TheVoice Incorporated, a nonprofit ministry. If you would like to give an offering or become a monthly VIP Voice Impact Partner, please go to TusseyOnline.com/give. That's TusseyOnline.com/give. If you'd like to go to Venmo, you can go and look for TheVoiceinc, and also on the Cash App, the money symbol, TheVoiceinc. We thank you so much for your support, your partnership, your prayers, and your consideration in giving. Remember, all gifts are tax deductible.
Everybody in here.